conversation, but yeah, absolutely. They need to be in place and they need to be enforced.
Do you think that
but
may
community?
infringe?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So do you think that may infringe on other people's freedom of speech? Like Bill C-16, the I don't think it's actually called the misgendering law, but what it was called in the media was the misgendering law. Jordan Peterson was duking it out with a bunch of people on your guys' local TV networks and whatnot. What do you guys think? Like, do you think it infringes upon other people's free speech who only believe in, for instance, two genders? Do you think that's like infringing on their free speech? Is it infringing on the people who are being insulted and offended by the laws not being enforced?
I think that being able to be recognized as the gender that you are, irrespective of other people's opinion or their like ability to tell who you are, you have the right to tell other people, and they need to respect that.
So preferred pronouns.
Human right. Yeah.
So something like that could also be termed with like gender affirming care, for instance, right?
Yeah,
so like waxing salons, for instance, like that. Yeah. So what do you guys think about the do you guys mind if I ask? Are you guys in the gay community or?
I'm trans.
Okay.
We're both,
you are? Okay, great.
We're both transgender.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't want to offend anyone by,
it's
okay.
fine. Thank you for asking. It's appreciated.
So what do you guys think about, do you guys know who Jessica Yaniv is?
Yes.
How do you guys feel about what's going on?
I think that individual, whether or not they're trans, I don't know them.
Yeah.
They haven't personally expressed whether way. If they ask for their pronouns to be respected, they need to be respected. The fact that they may be a bad person is separate from
the trans identity, sure.
Yeah, you can call them a bad person, call them out for the truthful things that they did, any crimes they may have committed. I'm not sure, like, I don't legally know what happened, but just from what I've seen in the media and on YouTube and stuff, I'm familiar with who they are and what they're accused of. And like their pronouns need to be respected unless they publicly change their mind. But we can call them a bad person because they
call them out on other issues that aren't trans. Yeah.
Their gender representation is irrespective of what they've done or what they may be intending to do.
So since you guys are both in the trans community, do you think that people on the conservative spectrum are kind of using that to take a pot shot at the transgender community, like the Jessica Yaniv situation? What do you guys think about like the waxing issue? Like Jessica Yaniv demanded that 16 different salons wax her current male genitals, right? What do you guys think about, like, for instance, the immigrant women that they're saying they specifically targeted? What do you guys think, like, is it a targeted thing? Because Jessica Yaniv there are screenshots that show that Jessica Yaniv has a issue with East Indian women in particular and thinks that they're all homophobic and is actually using the human rights tribunals to attack these women. So there's two questions I have. What do you think, is Jessica Yaniv using this to attack East Indian women? And then also, do you think that women have a choice on whether to offer gender affirming care as far as like waxing, right? So male genitals versus female genitals. Do you think you still have the right to choose that?
You know, like in that case, from not only from what you've said, but what I've seen of Jessica, it's also possible that they just got a bad vibe, and someone who makes you uncomfortable from a human perspective, you have the right to refuse. And honestly, there are laws. Well, there are care professionals who are happy to serve the trans community.
There are plenty of people out there that will do it.
If you're walking around looking for people who will refuse you, you will find them. Believe me, like, it happens to all of us. And it's unfortunate and it's painful if you are genuinely looking for gender affirming care in an honest manner. But it's possible this person was not doing that in an honest manner. Sure. Yeah.
So do you think that people still have the right to refuse that kind of thing if they don't feel comfortable with male genitalia, or for instance, if they don't feel comfortable with female genitalia, if they're a male identifying person? Do you think they have the right to refuse service?
That is a really complex question.
That's why I'm asking it. I wasn't sure I'd actually run across two members of the transgender community, and that's why I wanted to be very specific.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you know what? I'm not sure. In this particular case, it's really hard to know whether or not, like, I don't know if I would personally want to provide a service for that particular individual.
Sure.
But as a trans person myself who seeks out care in an honest and like open manner,
Legit manner.
I would feel very hurt if someone refused it, but I would accept that.
Specifically because you were trans. Yeah.
But I would accept it because indeed I would never want to force anything on anyone.
Because the question is consent.
Likewise. Yeah, exactly. It's consent.
Yeah. So, and then I think my final question is, how do you guys feel about like the rise of like nationalist movements and things like that? So the election of Donald Trump, for instance, the nationalist parties here in Canada, in England, in France, do you think that they are homophobic? Because I will say this, I have actually covered the Portland protests and I've actually met a lot of transgender people that are on the conservative side. What do you guys think about that? Is that something that's strange? For instance, I'm conservative myself, and I happen to be Muslim, so a lot of people are like, what is going on here? Yeah. I'm a little confused, but when I explain why, they kind of get it. How does the transgender community, I know you can't speak for everyone, but how do you guys personally feel about transgender people and LGBT people that end up on the conservative side of the spectrum, for instance, Trump supporters in the United States?
I would find it mysterious, but I would be open to talking about it
at least. I would be confused, but I'd be like, all right, that's what you believe, sure. I don't agree, but that you're free to believe what you believe. Just like I'm free to believe what I believe.
Do you guys think there's a way that we can kind of bridge this gap of polarization and kind of come together as a community, all of us, and not just, Canadians, but Americans, English, French, all of the... Yeah. Do you think that we have the capability to do that right now, or is it just too crazy polarized?
I mean, like, if we're talking about, like, humanity and the history of, like, the universe, that's a hard question to answer. But on an individual level, just communicating, like we're doing now.
Like, right now. Like, we have opposing political beliefs, but we're talking, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't, like, nobody has to be insulting or mean or anything like that. Yeah. We're just having a chat. Yeah. And, we'll walk away. We'll have a different view of something you may have said. You may take away something we've said and be like, oh, I never thought of that.
That's the way I... Actually, I'm sorry, I have one last question.
Yeah, no.
How do you guys feel about, so for instance, anti-fascist groups? So I actually covered a protest yesterday. The local Proud Boys were there, and the local Black Bloc was there, the Toronto chapter. The Black Bloc was not friendly to me. I mean, they knew I was conservative, and they were not friendly. How do you feel about like assaults that happen? So I know that there has been a rise in LGBT hate crimes as well. How do you guys feel about anti-fascist groups? Are they defending their community, or are they kind of not only providing a bad look to current left-wing organizations, but also attacking people that disagree with them? I mean, what's your feeling on the anti-fascist groups?
Because of the recent rise in fascist groups, I've been doing a lot of research, and just earlier you asked how I feel about the rise of like the right wing and the Trump and all these factors. And in my research, you know what, honestly, I am a little afraid. But like we are here, talking is my first step.
Right.
If
somebody tries to hurt you, you have every right to defend yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's basically how I feel. If someone is actively threatening either myself or someone who is vulnerable, then defense is reasonable.
Do you think like anti-fascist groups can take it too far though? Because we have like a prank YouTube video channel. We do a lot of social experiments. So we do like free hugs from Trump supporters. I don't want this to be offensive, but we do things where we, for instance, will identify as transracial. If you can change your gender, why can't you change your race? So we do things like that, and the anti-fascist groups in Seattle have taken that so offensively that they've like doxed my parents. They've come after me in like the streets and attacked me with like not only eggs and milkshakes, mind you, but like with fists and kicks as well. We've actually been in quite a few skirmishes with local Antifa groups. Do you think like they're going too far, or are they really doing community defense?
I think that history is basically an entire series of humans of all parties taking it too far.
That is actually a very deep perspective. I can agree with that. I mean, if you look at Nazi Germany, yeah.
They took it a little too far. Just a little.
Yeah. So I definitely try to actually talk to them and when I can. But thank you guys. No, this was great. I don't really... Saleem Juma.